So I saw somebody parting out this 2001 black Mustang Bullitt, and this was a little while ago, and I think about the car, I feel bad that they were parting it out. I believe it had title issues and things like that, but it's still a straight car, and it looked like it really didn't take much to get it back together. Unfortunately, when the paint's bad on them and they look rough, people give up on them easier and stuff. But all it takes is the vision of what the car can look like and some motivation. And I think there's plenty of people out there who would like to have a car like this and could have a car like this if they put the resources into it instead of just buying one that's really nice already, or even taking just the opportunity of getting it for a good price and fixing it up. But in this case, the seller wasn't willing to sell it whole. They wanted to part the car out, which is really sad to see. But it reminded me of a Bullitt story that I did recently about a black 2001 Mustang Bullitt. And this car had been sitting in a barn for 13 years, and it had the windows down and stuff. And I talked about the car. The information I had known about it from what someone else told me was that it might have had a bad engine, and they had a GT. They were selling parts for like an engine to go with the car and everything. And so that's kind of what I knew about the car. And the story is on my channel if you want to go back and watch it. But it turns out that the good news is the person who actually ended up buying it had just restored a black Bullitt. So the black Bullitt on the left is 3441 and the Bullitt on the right is number 4799. So this is what 3441 used to look like when he got it. It was in pretty rough shape, and this is what it looks like now. He did a fantastic job bringing this car back and giving it another life, and I think it looks beautiful. This just shows what you can do when you're willing to fix up a car and put a little money into it and make it look so nice. I mean, everybody likes this car now. It looks wonderful compared to what it did. So here's an example of some of the stuff he did when he was working on it. This is the fuel door. You can see some of the top part of it was chipping away. He did get a replacement Bullitt fuel door for the car, and he went to town working on this and doing a lot of restoration. I was able to watch him go through the process on the Bullitt Facebook page. So here's the car stripped down, working on it. It's got the trunk off of it and everything. He did some paint on the quarter panel there and got it looking really nice. I mean, what a beautiful job, and I'm so proud of him for doing this. I can't express how excited this makes me to see him taking something that was worn down and restoring it and bringing it back to life. You know, I absolutely love these cars, and I love to see when people out there who love them as well fix them up and take care of them, because I can't take care of all these cars out there, but it's nice to see other people who are out there doing it as well and enjoying them. So look how fantastic this car looks. I'm so proud of him for doing that, and it's hard to say that enough in this video. But he did a great job working on it, bringing it back. Even the interior, it was a little bit torn up. The seats, you know, had the normal Bullitt tearing in them that happens on these seats pretty easily. They dry out and then they start to rip, and he replaced the skins and everything on there, probably the foam too. And this looks really good. So you can see how nice the car looks. This is so presentable. Like, anybody would look at this car and just think it's a very nice car, because that's what it is now, and it took some work, but he was able to bring this car back. And so this is just a little bit of the interior. You can see the traction control button there is actually for the older style, for the 2001 Windsor engine cars. I'll briefly touch on the subject because it's a little interesting. You can see these traction control, fog light, and rear defrost buttons on the later cars had the actual words on there. You can see there in the middle where it says track off, and you can see the buttons have the little dots on the top for the lights. Well, this one says just off. If you can see it when it's illuminated, it would glow where it says off. And this is the different style button. They had these, I believe, in other Ford vehicles, maybe the Focus and stuff like that, and it had a spinning wheel. But the Ford Mustang had the whole center console and radio din and all this changed in 2001. And for the first little while, they had that button in the center instead of the button that said track off, like we had seen in this other picture I had just showed. And so a lot of the early 2001 Mustangs got this. And if you look at a lot of Roush and Saleen cars, they have that button if they were early 2001 built cars, because Roush and Saleen got a lot of the first Mustangs made, and then they converted them into the Roush cars for their model year, the Saleens for their model year. And so when Ford produced these cars first, they had that button. Even my brother's '01 Mustang GT is an early build, and it had that traction control button on it. But later, they added the track off buttons, and the Bullitt Mustangs got those. And the thing about the Bullitt Mustang was they also got another thing that was changed halfway through the model year, and that was the TR3650 5-speed manual transmission instead of the T45. So a lot of the early '01s had the T45, and they also had Windsor engines from the issue where Ford had a fire at the Romeo plant, so the 99 and 2000 Mustang GTs got 4.6 liter engines from the Windsor plant that had 8-bolt crankshafts. And so a lot of times you would see those early things where, you know, like my brother's '01 GT, for example, it has the T45, it had a Windsor engine, and it had that older traction control button. And so sometime during the 2001 model year, Ford changed all that, and they went from the T45 to the TR3650 Tremec transmission. They went from the Windsor 8-bolt crank engine to the Romeo 6-bolt, and they changed the button. And so those things were probably changed along with wire harness issues, differences and stuff. I'm not sure exactly if all of them got those differences, but from what I know, every Bullitt came with the track off button and a TR3650 transmission and a Romeo engine. So that looks like it had been changed. And I know Rob had actually changed the dashboard on this car. So I'm thinking either the dash came out of a 2001 that had the older traction control button, or the button just might have been changed at some point. And so anyway, you can see how nice the car looks now and how enjoyable it is to have something that's been, you know, saved. I think it's so cool to see this car all shiny and nice and enjoyed. And he actually just took it out, went for a pretty good drive with it, and he went to a car meet. So here are some pictures of the black Bullitt there at the car meet, and it's looking really nice. I'm just think this is so cool. It's my favorite car in the whole lineup there, and it's fun to see it out there. He's got the deep dish rear Bullitt wheels on it now and stuff, and it's just a really good looking car, and it's out being enjoyed like it should be and preserved. And so now back to 4799, the Bullitt that was sitting for 13 years in the barn. He was able to find someone who would ship the car to him, and he paid some money for the car, paid to have it shipped, and got it to his house. And so pretty cool to see that he's going to be restoring this one, and he's been making some pretty good progress on the car. Now, on another tangent that we can go on, I noticed that the front bumper cover has the vents on the fog light area. Now, Bullitt Mustangs did not come with fog lights, but they also did not come with the vents on the fog light opening there like the V6 cars did. Essentially, this is the same bumper as a V6, but the Bullitt did get GT everything else, and the Bullitt front bumper was actually from a GT. It just didn't have any fog lights in it. And so you can see this front bumper has actually been replaced at one point. And it's neat that the Bullitt grille that has the black corral around it was actually swapped over, and so that was preserved. A lot of times, if the Bullitt Mustangs get in some kind of an accident and have the front bumper replaced, they just get one from a V6 somewhere, and it has the chrome around the pony, and they don't even notice it's different, and they'll just put that whole bumper on with the grille and everything. But in this case, they must not have gotten the grille with the new bumper replacement, and they put the old one on, and luckily that preserved the actual Bullitt corral and pony like it should be. Now, looking inside, the car actually looks pretty good. Little bolster wear, but the interior doesn't look too bad on this car considering it sat with the windows down. Now, the engine had an issue where it was thought that the engine was bad and it was missing the wire harness on the car. And so he was asking around, seeing if he could get a normal GT harness to work with it and everything, and he did get that resolved. He actually ended up paying $400 for an actual bullitt engine harness. Now, some people say you can reuse a different GT harness, some people say you can't. There are some things that Ford really wanted to do when they made the Bullitt, and that was try to keep things as similar to the GT as possible. But there were probably some small changes on the harness. Now, I had actually sold my Bullitt, and I was talking with the new owner, and I have bought the car back since then. But when it was in his possession, he wanted to work on the ignition coil plugs, and they get old over time, and I actually had a harness from an '03 automatic Mustang GT, and so I sent him that whole engine harness, and he plugged it all in, and everything plugged in right, but he didn't have reverse lights anymore once he got it plugged in, and the alternator was different because they did change from a different pin count to another style pin count and things like that. And so there were some changes, and he got the car to run fine with the harness, but he didn't have reverse lights, and there were some issues where it just wasn't right. So he took it out and put the original harness back, and then he replaced each of the ignition coil connectors, and then that was the story about that. So I've heard of some people trying to get the harness to work. The MAF count can be different. The pins on the MAF changed over the years. There were little things. So in this case, Rob just decided it'd be best to get a bullitt harness for the car, and he did pay a good price for it, but he did put an original bullitt harness back in the car, and he did get the car running. And so we'll have a video of the car running here in a minute. But something else he worked on was the bullitt sticker. So under the rear seat, he was able to locate the second bullitt hologram sticker. And I actually made a video on how to locate this sticker. This is an old video I made a while ago with my bullitt, and the reason why this is important is because there is a bullitt hologram sticker in the engine bay, but it gets faded and sometimes you can't read the number. And so basically you can get a screwdriver like this. I've seen people even just use the seat belt buckle for the driver and passenger front seats. They just pull the seat belt back, and when you lift up the seat here, there's a little button to push in right there, and when you push that button in with a screwdriver or the tip of the seatbelt buckle, then it releases those metal posts that are sticking down from the seat there, and you just pull the carpet back here on the top of the frame rail, and there is the hologram sticker. And so that's a good way to find out if a bullitt really is a bullitt or not. And so, for example, if you look at his hologram sticker in the engine bay, it was just completely worn off. And Ford did a recall on this, and they made one more sticker for each car. And, it's hard for people to get that sticker sometimes, but he actually made this little template, and he was able to reapply the numbers to his sticker to make it look right and everything. And it's kind of hard to read, but it's still there, and I think that's pretty cool because a lot of those, even mine, is getting to the part where it's illegible. But anyway, cool to see this black bullitt going to a good home and getting a good restoration again, like his other black one did. And so here you can see the bullitt on the trailer looking really good. Got it off and in the driveway, and yeah, it needs some love, but it's so cool to see. And if you look right off, you can notice it's missing the front spat side skirt piece by the front wheel there. And he was able to track down a set of original bullitt ones. And these ones had a little damage, but he was able to repair them. And my bullitt was missing the one on the driver's side when I bought it too. And there is a company that made some aftermarket ones, and I bought one of those for my car, so I'm happy I at least have something there. But he did get a set of those. But if you look at the passenger side, there's a pretty bad dent on the fender there. He really wanted to fix that right away. And so what he did was he found a 2003 Mustang GT that was black. It happened to be a Centennial edition. And my brother actually made a really cool video about this. I'll put the link in the description. But Ford actually, to celebrate 1903 to 2003, 100 years, they made a special edition in a variety of vehicles. and they were all black, and they had this badge on the side that said Ford Motor Company 100 Centennial, so it's the 100 years of Ford, and even the leather seats had the logo stamped in them, and it came with like a watch and all this special stuff, and so I'll put that link in the description. But it was pretty cool to see that Ford had done this. I actually saw one on the dealership lot in 2003, and so that car, even though it was a flood car and had a salvage title, is still going to be restored, and his friend who's been helping him with the Bullitt got the car, and this is a Bullitt intake manifold that his friend got for the car. It's powder coated, it's going to go on it, and he's going to road race the car because he doesn't care that it has a salvage title from being in a flood. He's going to turn it into a road racing car. And so Rob took the whole front of this car, the fenders, hood, doors, everything, and put it on the Bullitt, and you can see where the badge used to be for the Centennial car. And he's also got the whole underside to work on. He's got the axle off. You can see the brakes, the difference between how they used to look and how they look now. And I think this might have been on his other Bullitt that he did, but he's doing it to this one as well. So looking really nice to have that all redone. Got the running horse on the calipers. He's been restoring that. You can see everything looking good, and powder coated the axle, got the diff cover there looking really good. He even got some axle shafts, control arms, everything looking really good to restore the underside. It was a little scaly. He's got new suspension parts and everything, and he got the underside cleaned up really nice, brand new fuel tank, everything ready to go. And so this looks fantastic. Look how nice it looks underneath here. Here's the diff cover. That looks really nice. It has the tags on there and everything. So very top-notch work, looking really, really good. And so he wanted to get the Bullitt running, and he was worried that at this point, from what it was said about the car before and what I had been told, that the engine was bad in the car, and so he wasn't really looking forward to this part of having to replace the engine. But he decided to see if he could get the car started and see if he could get it running. It actually ran for a little bit, but then the car would die out. But he was really excited to think that the car was still running. And under further investigation, this fuse he's pointing to was not there. If you look at the older pictures of the car, the fuse was missing, and that's the fuel pump fuse. And so that's all it was. And he was surprised it actually ran without the fuel pump. And so here you'll see a little video of the car running, and that was quite a relief. Like I said, he was thinking he was going to have to replace the engine.
It runs, Henry.
That sounds good. I'm very happy for him. So he was saying that the car runs, that he can shift it through the gears, but he hasn't taken it on an actual test drive yet. But he's really excited about that, and I would be too. And so I just want to say again, I'm so glad he saved this car. I'm so glad he saved the other one. He's done great work for the Mustang Bullitt community, and he's showing other people that this is doable and that you have a really awesome car when all is said and done. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.